We'll shift gears now and say Happy Advent. You did much better than the 8:30 crowd. They thought that was a word I just made up. They had no idea how to respond to that. So we are in the middle of Advent. We're wrapping things up. And we're talking about some words that we always associate with Advent because we always light candles here in front of us, don't we? And we wonder what those words are and what they mean. Before there was Christ born into the world, there were just words that had very simple meanings. But once God was born unto us in this person of Jesus, all of a sudden those words, the definitions of those words became expanded, became deeper, far more significant than you could ever imagine. And it becomes the heart and soul of our faith. And so some of the problems we have in our faith is that we try to apply today's or worldly meanings of those words into our lives, and then we don't understand who this God is very well. So we're going to redefine these words today, and I'm going to have a special person come up and light a candle for each word that we talk about. The 4 words that we talked about, by the way, are what? Hope, peace, love, cheaters. I was here going, wow, you guys are on top of things. So those are the 4 words that we see wrapped around in the Advent candle. The pink candle is always the pink candle is joy, which is supposed to be today, but kind of messed it up a little bit. So we're going to talk about love today. But so first week we lit a candle. It was the candle of hope. You remember that? Hope, I think, just to the world, to understand of hope, changed its meaning from something or wanting something to happen that would benefit myself or go into my favor, right? Like we hope that when we buy a lottery ticket that we have those winning numbers, right? We hope that when I go to the doctor, he's going to have something or she's going to have something good to say to me. And we hope, too, that it's going to rain, or in our case, it won't rain for a while so we can get the concrete in the building and we can go up with it. So we have a lot of hope that these things are going to take place. And so we center our lives around this word of hope. And so hope had changed to all of a sudden a new definition of hope is knowing that God will remain faithful to us, that God will never leave us, that God will have the final word regardless if things don't turn out the way that I hope that they will. Does that make sense? Last Sunday, she's quick, we lit the candle of peace, okay? And peace has also changed its definition. Peace is kind of recognized as those brief moments in time, right? When there isn't any conflict or tension or animosity or stress or drama, right? Those periods of time when you're alone, basically. To all of a sudden, peace now is creating, but then also maintaining a different spirit about us, a different confidence in us that cannot be taken away regardless of whatever stressful situation we might find ourselves in. Our third candle we were lighting today I'm going to blow it out and you can come back here and rile it. Oh, the third candle we lit today is the candle of love. Love and peace are 2 words that are forever linked together. You cannot have one without the other. But love that we light is the most important quality that we are to develop as followers of this Jesus Christ. I want you to listen to John as he confronts this first century church who's really struggling a little bit to move beyond the controlling boundaries of the law. So listen to these words. It's a lot of words, so listen.
First John 4, 7 through 21. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is perfected in us. By this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. And we have seen and do testify that the Father has sent his Son as the Savior of the world. God abides in those who confess that Jesus is the Son of God, and they abide in God. So we have known and believed the love that God has for us. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness on the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because he first loved us. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandment we have from him is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also.
Kids. A lot of words, folks. We're going to kind of break that down a little bit as we talk a little bit about what love is as it is defined by our God. But the first thing I want to do is kind of set the tone for this. Love and peace are interrelated. You cannot have with one without the other. You cannot have peace that God provides unless you live in the love that is defined by God. And just the opposite is true. You cannot live in love unless you have the peace that God provides, okay? Y'all get that so far? The two are related. You cannot have one without the other. But I want to say this about love. Love has its enemies. You know what its enemies are? Enemies are fear and anger. All right, we're going to get down to the core, the heart of things right now, okay? What prevents us from having love and peace is fear and anger. These two groupings of words are at complete opposite ends of the other. They cannot coexist. However, we have been given this great ability to choose how we want to live, with one or the other, right? Now, I want to say this, that the stumbling block for the church ever since the days of Abraham has always come from those in the church who act out of fear, who say, we cannot have certain groups of people among us, or we cannot change certain things within the community of faith. Why? Because we fear that it's going to ruin the church. We fear that it's going to anger a lot of people who are not comfortable with certain groups of people or certain changes, even if it is what God needs for us to do. Are you following me? Thank you. This is kind of like something you get in Psychology 101 here, okay? So fear has its roots in this instinctive behavior of ours, this need that we have to be in control. Anybody like to be in control? Point to the person who has control issues, because no one's going to point at themselves, right? This innate ability to want to always be in control. And when this unfamiliarity enters into our familiar places, ooh, look out. Because that has the potential for fear to emerge. And then fear gives birth to what? Anger. And anger is just another way or an attempt for us to maintain some type of control over the situation. We heard that. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Mama is not in control, so she ain't happy. And so in order for us to maintain some semblance of the worldly peace, of temporary silence, is to what? Make mama happy, right? Even though it won't last long. Am I right? Thank you. All right. So we can say this about anger. I like to think of anger as a cover-up emotion. And what I mean by that is that we feel fear, right? But we act in anger out of our fear. So anger is what covers up something very vulnerable in us, and that is this fear. We don't want people to know that we're fearing something, so we try to take control over a situation by becoming angry. So anger covers up our fear that we are losing control over something that we value. And that can be very terrifying, can't it? Even if it is God who is calling us to change what it is that we value. That's a lot of words right there, isn't it? I'll give you an example. There's this guy we like to talk about a lot in here, and his name is Jesus. Ever heard of him? He's in that Bible thing that we carry around with us every now and then. But the birth of this Jesus brought about a tremendous amount of fear to the people around him. And if you read the Gospel of Matthew, the beginning parts of the Gospel of Matthew that center around the birth of Jesus, the political leaders were devastated that this person was coming in to the world. And so he set out this demand to round up every child 2 years of age and under and do what with them? Kill them. Wipe them out. So maybe we can just get this one little guy who will not threaten the way that we live. So why was Jesus such a threat? He was a guy who was looking for what? Peace, hope, love, right? Joy. So why was he such a threat? He was a threat to church leaders and to the political system because he challenged their rules. He challenged their traditions, their laws, their ways of kind of controlling people. And the many things that were very familiar to the people, Jesus disrupted. But not only that, he encouraged those who the church had says, you're not welcome here, to come be a part of the life of God. He encouraged them to find the peace that they craved through this person, through this God of his. And so the church leaders feared that everything that they had preserved for generations is going to be lost. And the church would lose the familiarity that it enjoyed. And so when Jesus did not give in to their threats, what happened? Their fear gave birth to anger. And anger then gives birth to hatred. It was out of their hatred that led to his killing. Now let's back up. Let's talk about their fear that they had. Was their feeling of fear normal? Absolutely normal. It is a part of who we are. It is one of the responses that we have. It is something that we've been born with. So yes, it was normal. But their fear blinded them from the idea that God would do something new. So their acts of anger were misconstrued as acts of love because they were trying to preserve what they thought was right. Even the Apostle Paul said to his protege Timothy, he tried to remind them that God did not give us a spirit of fear. That doesn't come from God. But God gives us a spirit of what? Power. A spirit to love. A spirit of self-discipline. Which means that sometimes it is a hard effort not to act in anger. Right? Fear is not of God. But if given into, people, fear and anger prevents God's work from being done. Why? Think about it. Fear creates separation, right? We see that even amongst us. Certain people come in and certain people have been here. And sometimes there's that fear that we're going to change things or they're going to do things differently. And that brings up a bunch of fears. So we create these two different groups of people, even within the walls of society or the church. Anybody heard of the political system? You think there's fear involved with that? Fear also does not work on reconciliation. It builds walls. Fear places limitations on people. You cannot be an elder because you're a woman. You cannot be a minister because you're gay. You cannot do certain things because God cannot call you in those things, because I am afraid that if I give in to you, that the church will be lost. And so instead we put limitations on what God can do with whoever God chooses to do things with. Fear places limitations on people. And fear also determines who it is that we should reach out to and who we should leave alone. Who it is that we're going to like and who it is we're going to hate. I've always been fearful of those folks, of those churches that say all people are welcome. Because there always seems to be a little asterisk there. You're welcome here as long as you play by our rules. As long as you're not this or don't do that, then you're welcome. So here we are lighting the candle of love. And if we were to give a definition to love, as we've done with the other two terms, it would probably look something like this. Love is an act, a complete act of mercy, concern, and well-being to any and every person on the face of the earth. It is an act of mercy, concern, and well-being. That's important right there, just to stop there, because it doesn't say you can do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. It's permission giving. Tear the place up. We'll be happy. We'll just keep loving you. Love is a concern, is an act of mercy, of concern, and well-being. It invests in an individual, help them understand where it is that God needs them to be. Love is not an emotional response. It doesn't care how we feel. It is an act, a very intentional act of grace that reflects but also reveals God's goodness to all people. Period. Easy to do? Heck no, it's not easy to do. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your entire life, I promise you. But this love that we speak about today is really the measuring stick in my mind of how we will be judged by God. It's not how many books in the Bible you can recite. It's not if you have a record of right or wrong or what you've done or if you have a list of sins that you don't commit. How we will be judged is how we love according to this definition. Because love is the only expectation that is given to us by our Creator. And love can only be created in you by overcoming this fear, by trusting God and allowing God to control your destiny. Now, let me say this. As difficult as it is, I think acting in this kind of love that he speaks of today is just as abnormal for us as trying to breathe underwater. Anybody try to do that? If you did, then you're probably not here today, I'm guessing, right? It's just as abnormal as trying to breathe underwater. Because our brain kinds of think, well, if I do this, then it's going to cause this, and there'll be this chain reaction of stuff if I choose to love the way that God chooses to love. And trying to breathe underwater was probably one of my biggest obstacles in scuba diving. Anybody been scuba diving before? That was a struggle for me. Why? Because it's not natural to breathe underwater. It didn't feel right, right? And I would start to panic. And I would start to think something here is wrong. I should not be able to breathe underwater. It did not feel right. But at some point, you have to learn how to trust that the instructor knows what he or she is talking about. You have to trust that what the instructor experienced will be the same thing that you experience. And you have to trust the process of what is being told to you. And once you learn how to just relax, once you learn how to just trust, take control away from you and practice the process to the point that you begin to do it, then you're eventually going to let go of that fear. And you're there going to discover a whole new world that's waiting to be explored. Let me tell you this, why we're here. We're not here to get that check mark by your name that final day. We are here in this place to learn how to love. We are here in this place to learn how to trust the instructor. We are here in this place to learn how to let go of those fears and to build up a kingdom on earth that has no end. Final words that John says are these: there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Whoever fears has not reached that perfection in love. It's powerful. That tells me that even if I stand up here for 22 years, that I still have a long way to go before I perfect that love. And I'd be willing to bet that all of us are in the same category. I haven't met one person that has perfected love. We all have our things, that our highs or lows or disappointments. But you know, it doesn't take a college degree to learn how to love. It doesn't take a scientist to know how to share God's love with others. All it takes is a willing heart. All it takes is a commitment to say, I'm going to try to learn who this person is and attempt to do the things that's asked of me. And go before my God and say, put inside of me a servant's heart that I can choose to love instead of act out of fear and anger. So every time you come up to that point and your blood's starting to boil and you're starting to get angry, just stop and try to figure out, what is your fear? Because a lot of times we're angry, we always want to do what? Sam did it. He's the reason I'm angry. Just joking, Sam. Okay? We always want to point at somebody else about something that we have, and it's some fear that's deeply embedded in us. And we got to figure it out what that is and let it go. And trust that it's okay to allow God to fix it and take it. And we can learn how to live and see a whole different world that we never knew existed. When we get around this place, this is why we're here, is to learn, but it's also here to experience. And that's what this table represents. It's to experience this Christ who comes to us in very profound ways, you know? I mean, who would think to go up against the opposition of those who want to get rid of him? And the first things he says when he's on that cross about to die is to forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I wouldn't say those words. You probably wouldn't say them in church if I was me. But he understood that they were acting out of fear. And they did not know what it is that they were doing. They really did not know. And so this is the person who even broke his bread and blood for us, that we can get it and understand and experience it. So you are welcome to this table too, because we're about to do this act of really communicating and relating to God in a very powerful way. And as you do so, let go of those fears. Identify what they are. And they'll pop up when your anger shoots up this week, I promise you. Happens to me no more than 8 times a day. And that's when I'm by myself. But it happens. but identify why it is you're angry, because it's not somebody else. It's you. What are you covering up? Let it go. Let us pray. Our gracious God, we are thankful for your love that continues to shower upon us. We're thankful for the hope that you instill in our lives. We thank you for continually believing in us, even when we struggle immensely to believe in ourselves. We're thankful for everything that you provide for us, for your love that's so unconditional. And as you say to us, you know, if you can love us this much, shouldn't we also love other people that much? That's hard to do. But this day, we are committing ourselves to doing just that. So as we gather as your people, as we come forward to partake of your meal, as we share in these elements that you have provided for us, as we take you into our hearts, our minds, our very souls, touch us so that our fears that we feel within us will move away, and that we will trust everything that you say about us, everything that you say to us, so that we can live as the people that you call us to be. So when people experience the love that we share with other people, they will experience you. We thank you for all that you have made us. But more importantly, we thank you for what you have yet to create in us this day forward. Thank you for your hope in us. May we respond to you in a way that is pleasing. Amen.